Hey everyone, it's Brandy and welcome back to my channel, Brandy Janae's Bookshelf. Today I'm going to be showing off all the books that I picked up in March. I am filming this like in the middle of the last week of the month, and I'm doing this a little earlier than I normally would, so it feels a little weird, but I don't plan on purchasing any more books before the end of the month, and I didn't have anything to go up today, so I figured I would just go ahead and film this and just upload it today. So I have quite a bit to show off for you guys today. It's not as much as it could have been, but it's way more than it should have been, because after last month I told myself I was going to slow down on my book buying once again, and I was gonna try to catch up on my reading 3 physical books before I allowed myself to buy a new one. And I did not do that again this month. At first I had some decently good reasons for it, mainly book club, and since I didn't have access to be able to go to the library, I just purchased them, and then it got out of control. So yeah, I don't know exactly how many things I have to show off, but I will say that most of them are manga. I feel like I've just been really in the mood for manga lately. I'm gonna end up probably getting through most, if not all of these very soon, so I figured it would be okay, at least for this time around. And after this month, well, besides pre-orders, I'm gonna go back to what I started in January and February that I had did a good job in. Well, not so much February, but what I had was doing a good job in before, which, like I just mentioned, was I needed to read 3 books before I allowed myself to buy one new one. So I have calculated out how many physical books I need to read to catch up to my current purchases. So I'm going to do that, or I'm going to be working through that, and hopefully I can it's kind of a lot, because with the amount of books that I've purchased already, including this month, I need to read 36 books to catch up with all of the new books that I have acquired besides pre-orders and Outcrate books so far this year. So I don't think I could get that done in a month, but I might, because of a readathon that's happening, and I feel like I might get through a little bit. I will talk more about that readathon in my TBR video. Just know that most likely most of these books that I talk about in this haul will be for that readathon, which is I guess I can mention it here just in case you guys are interested in it. But the Dewey's 24-hour readathon is coming up again. It's on April 6th, which is a Saturday. So I think this time around I'm just going to try to read a bunch of manga. So that's why I said most of these books that I talk about in this video will most likely be on my TBR for that. And as long as I don't have too much going on, I feel like I can get through a lot of them. Anyway, I have rambled on way too much. Hopefully I don't know how much of this I will keep in, because I know I like to talk and then I tend to be like, why was I doing all that, and then cut it out. But I will try to keep that in just so you guys can have a better understanding of my purchasing goals and how I haven't been doing too good with that, but I'm trying to get back on track with it. But I don't know, I'm kind of finding it kind of hard because I've been really into manga lately and I want to get them, but you know, I want to read other books that I've had on my shelves. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble again, so let's just get into it. In March, I actually only had 1 pre-order, and then there was 1 other book that I allowed myself to consider as a pre-order because I had just finished the first book in the series, and I just really wanted to get that to have on my shelf so I can pick it up. So the book that I had pre-ordered in March was Skip Beat Volume 42 by Yoshiki Nakamura. If you have been on my channel for a while, you will have possibly seen me talking about this series. This is one of my favorite manga series. I think it was one of the first ones that I had ever found when I was reading online, and I believe it was last year when I was buying the 3-in-1 editions and I kind of just blew through the series. Actually, that wasn't last year. I think it was the year before, so I think that was in 2017, because just did my or not too long ago I did my 2018, all the books I read in 2018, and that wasn't on there. So that was in 2017 where I read most of the series, and I'm considering starting over from the beginning because there was a storyline that I kind of want to revisit, and this current storyline is not moving fast enough because I'm all caught up and I only get 2 volumes of this a year, so I'm just like, I want more, but I have to wait. Anyway, basically I'm getting into a whole nother thing, but yeah, this was the only pre-order that I have for the month, and I have already read this. I guess I could tell you just a little bit about the series. So where the point that this volume is at is completely different, or not completely different, but a lot has happened since the beginning of the story. But at the beginning, we're following this character named Kyoko Mogami. She is from this really small town, well, I don't know if it's a small town, but small area, or rural area, I guess is the best way to say it, called Kyoto. And she came to Tokyo with this childhood friend of hers who she was in love with, Sho, because he's like, he wanted to be in the music business, and he's just like, I need to go to Tokyo. And he brought her along with him basically to take care of him until he made it. And once he gets to a certain point, he like starts leaving her in an apartment, and she's in this really fancy apartment because he's just like, because he's like, I can't live anywhere else. I need to be here because, you know, my image needs to be a certain way. So she was working multiple jobs to try to support him, and then she would go home and he wasn't there. She found out that he was like, I don't know if he was seeing his manager or like something was going on with his manager. She found out, and he basically told her, he was like, I was just using you. I don't need you anymore, whatever. And she's like, I'm going to get my revenge on you. And she decides to go into showbiz world as well to try to get her revenge. And she's basically like, I'm going to become more popular than you. So this is following her journey as she's trying to get her revenge. But obviously, as the story goes along, it morphs into more than just that, and she finds that she truly has a passion for acting, and we're kind of following her on her journey through that and all the difficulties that goes on with her in her personal life as well in her acting career, and a possible romance that hasn't really taken off too much. Like, we know the characters are in love with each other, but nothing has actually happened really. It's just so much that I want to revisit, so I think I might be picking up this series again sometime soon, just so I can relive it until I get more of the story. And the other book that I picked up that I kind of allowed to count as a pre-order, but it really wasn't, was The Everlasting Rose by Danielle Clayton. This is kind of blending in with my tapestry, so hopefully you guys can see that. Sorry about that, I didn't think that through, but you should be able to see that. I had just finished up The Bells, I believe earlier this month, and it was like right before this was about to come out. So if I had finished it earlier, I definitely would have pre-ordered it, but I finished it like right before it came out. So I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna purchase it and I'm gonna allow it to count as a pre-order. So technically this one didn't go towards my, you know, my need to buy 3 or need to read 3 before I buy another one. But yeah, I picked this up because I was really intrigued with The Bells, and the way it ended, I was just like, I need to know what happens. I have heard some not so great things about this sequel, and I believe this is actually the finale of this series, which I am kind of nervous about, but I am definitely still looking forward to seeing how this one plays out. And yeah, so pick this one up, and at first I was just like, okay, these are going to be the only 2 books I pick up for the month, and this was definitely a pre-order, and I was counting this as a pre-order. So I was just like, you know what, that means I'm not picking up any new books for the month that's outside of, you know, those parameters that I said was okay, and I was good to go. But then, you know, other things start happening. The next book that I have, which I almost forgot to talk about, which technically also doesn't count towards that goal that I set for myself, was Four Dead Queens by Astrid. I still haven't looked up how to say her name, and I feel terrible about that. Sorry, I'm gonna have to do that, but I'm in the middle of filming, so I will look that up later. But This one is not technically going to count because this did come in the March Outcrate box. I just posted an unboxing for the box that this came in earlier this week, so I will link it up in the iCards as well as down in the description box if you're interested in going to see the unboxing for the entire March Outcrate box. But if you can't already tell, this is an Outcrate exclusive cover, which is why this is red instead of blue, the background color. This is a signed copy, and I think I mentioned this, but I always put like my little Outcrate signed exclusive sticker in there, so I never forget. I don't really know too much about this book. I have seen people talking about it, or talking about their opinions of it, but I haven't really looked up too many details. I just know that this deals with 4 queens, and I believe it has something to do with an assassination plot, but I don't really know, like I said, what this is about. I believe it is a YA fantasy novel though, so I'm looking forward to reading this. This will be on my April TBR because of my trying to read the Outcrate books month after I get them. The next book I'm going to show you is the only other book that I have that is not a manga, so that's why I'm showing that to you guys now. But that is Once Ghosted Twice Shy by Alyssa Cole, and this is so tiny, so hopefully you can see that. But this is one of the novellas from the Reluctant Royal series. This was the first one to be released. I haven't actually read this one yet because I wanted to get a physical copy, but the physical copy wasn't available when the digital copy released, and for some reason I just never picked it up right away. So I finally got it, and I will be reading this sometime soon. If you don't already know about this specific one and you have already read the Reluctant Royal series, or at least the first book, this one follows Lakotsi. If you've read that first book, you will know that she had some type of love interest while she was in New York, I believe, with the prince, and it didn't go so well. So we get to follow her as she re-meets this love interest and what they go through after re-meeting, and I can't wait to see what happens. Like I said, I've heard really good things. The rest of the books that I have to talk about are all mangas. I think some of these I picked up for a book club, and then others I was just like, I've either been wanting to pick them up, or they were talked about in book club, or I've seen them around on Instagram. So I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna pick them up because I want to read manga, and I'm most likely gonna read them soon. So the first 2 that I have here is Fruits Basket, the Collector's Edition Volume 1 and Volume 2 by Natsuki Takaya. So I picked up the Volume 1 of the Collector's Edition because this was the book club pick for the Attack on Manga book club, which I talked about in my March TBR. This was our April pick, and these Collector's Edition actually have 2 volumes in one, which is why it's a collector's edition and why they're so big basically. But I picked this one up, like I said, because of that. And after I finished the first volume for the book club, I continued on and read the second volume, which is the second half of this. So after I finished with volume 1, I decided to just go ahead and pick up volume 2, because the way manga typically ends is that there's some type of cliffhanger and you're just like, what the heck is going on, and there were some things that were revealed at the end of volume 2 that I was just like, what the heck is about to happen, what is going on. So I just picked up volume 2 of the collector's edition. Hopefully that makes sense, which is technically, like, this contains volume 3 and 4. So hopefully that makes sense, because I know that was kind of confusing talking about volume 2 with this. But I picked up, like I said, these 2. This starts off following this character named Toru Honda. I believe that's how you say her name. Not completely sure. Her mother recently passed away, and she was living with her grandfather after this whole big issue with none of her family members really wanting to take her in. They were all complaining about how they didn't have space and all this. So she ended up living with her grandfather. But her grandfather's like, I'm about to have renovations done on this house. Can you go stay with a friend, and I'm going to go visit some other family. So she actually ends up getting a tent and like living out of this tent while her grandfather is gone, and she ends up on this property of a boy who goes to her school. They end up finding out that she's there, and they offer her a place to stay until her grandfather gets back, or until the renovations are done. The boys that she meets through the boy from her school are actually related to the Chinese zodiac sign, I believe. So yeah, to the Chinese zodiac. So there is some shenanigans that happens because of that, and it's really fun and cute story, but there's also a darker tone to it that's like, it was kind of hinted at, but we really didn't get too far into it. So like I said, I've read this one already, and I picked up this because I was just like, I am interested in the series, and hopefully you can see that. I know these covers are kind of white, so yeah. And I guess I can show you in the back. I don't know. Usually don't show the back, but there are characters on the back of these as well. Since I was just talking about the Atako Manga Book Club, which is a book club that focuses on reading manga, I might as well show you guys what our April book of the month or manga pick of the month is. That is My Brother's Husband, Volume 1. By Gengoro Tagami. In this, we are following this guy and his daughter. I'm not exactly sure what happened to his wife, and it was saying something about he was formerly married, but it really doesn't give too many details on this wife or ex-wife. And he's, like I said, he's a work-at-home dad who has a daughter that he's taking care of. One day this man appears at his door, and he finds out that it's his brother's husband. And his brother, I believe, died recently. It's about taking in his brother's husband while he's grieving, and while this guy is trying to get to know the family, because I think they said the brother had moved to Canada or something like that. I don't know all the details about this, but it sounds like it's going to be a heartbreaking as well as a heartwarming story. Hopefully you can see that cover. I know it's kind of shiny with this light, but yeah. And there's the artwork on the back. The next one that I picked up was Ouran High School Host Club, Volume 1 by Bisco Hattori. And this is one that I feel like I read, or I like started to read around a time when I was reading manga, but I'm not completely sure. I guess when I get into it, I will see if I recognize any parts of the story. As far as I know, we're following this high school girl, and she ends up having to work in this host club to pay off something that she broke. I think she had a crush on this guy, and she followed him somewhere, and she broke this really expensive vase. In order to pay them back for whatever it was that she broke, she has to work as a guy in this host club. And I'm sure there's going to be some type of romance. This is one of the options that we had to choose from for the March book, and I believe that this is the one that I voted on initially. So since it didn't win, I figured I would just go ahead and pick it up and read it for myself. Next, I have Kitchen Princess, the Omnibus, Volume 1 by Natsumi Ando and Miyuki Kobayashi. And this is another one I feel like I possibly have read this in the past, but I don't exactly remember. This omnibus edition has volumes 1 and 2 in here, and this is another manga series that follows cooking. If you've seen me talking about Food Wars, that's another one that has something to do with cooking. But I believe the main character of this is this girl. I don't know her name, but she remembers this guy from when she was a kid, and she's trying to find him, but all she has to go off of is this silver spoon, and that spoon leads her to this like elite school, and she ends up getting in, but she's obviously trying to figure out who this guy is, and I'm guessing for some type of romance or something, but I don't know too much more than that. I have seen this one around, and it's been one that I've had in my cart for a while, and I decided to just finally pick it up. And I believe these omnibus editions is only 4, so I might possibly pick up the other ones soon and just read the entire series. Next, I have Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun by Izumi Tsubaki. And I saw this one because I had when I posted on my Instagram recently, I had actually volume 1 of Fruits Baskets, I posted that in the picture and I tagged Yen Press in there, and I don't know, for some reason I did not follow Yen Press, so I decided to follow them. And I was looking through some of their pictures and I saw a mention of this series, so I decided to check it out and it sounded interesting, so I figured I would go ahead and pick it up. This one is another like teen, most of these are in that teen category of manga, but or I guess it could also be like YA if you want to relate it that way. But this one is following this girl who has a crush on this guy, and it turns out he is a manga artist, or maybe, yeah, he's a girl's manga artist is what the description says. And I believe she agrees to be his assistant because she's trying to get him to notice her, but he's kind of all wrapped up in his world of manga and he's kind of clueless to love, I guess, or romance like in the real world. So this is supposed to be like a comedy slash romance, so I'm looking forward to seeing this. Hopefully I enjoy it. Next, this is the last one that technically falls into that teen category, I'm pretty sure, and that is the Connie and Hannah by Yuki Shiwasu. This is another one that I have seen around. It's one that I have been going back and forth between picking up. It's been in my cart, and this time around I finally decided to pick it up. This one follows this girl named Hannah. Her older sister has a meeting for an arranged marriage, so she's supposed to be going to meet this businessman, and her sister refuses to go. So in order to save face for her family, she decides to go in her sister's place, and she meets this guy, and I don't think their first meeting goes too well, and Hannah thinks that she's not gonna really have to deal with him again. But he shows up again, and it turns out that he might actually be interested in marrying her, so we will see how this goes. I was kind of flipping through this one as well, and the guy, even though he's an adult, he looks like he's a pretty childish character, so we will see how I feel about this. I have heard mixed things about this one, but I decided to pick it up, check it out, because I might enjoy it. So the last two mangas that I picked up are technically both like adult, or they have them labeled as mature, so they are like for an adult audience. The first one that I have is Everyone's Getting Married, Volume 9 by Izumi Miyazano. I believe last year is when I picked up most of the previous volumes, and I found out that Volume 9 was actually the last volume of the series, and since it was the only one that I don't own or didn't own, I figured I would just go ahead and pick it up so I can just finish off the series. I've read the first two. I will probably reread them, but you know, like I said, I just decided to pick up this last volume so I can have the entire series. So this one is following this successful career woman. I believe she works in a bank or something like that, but she has dreams of becoming a housewife. She wants to be the woman who takes care of the home and makes sure her family is happy and, you know, is just like enjoying life. That's what she wants to do. And she ends up meeting up with this popular newscaster, and he doesn't believe in love and marriage. He had a bad experience and he's just like, that's not for me, you know, whatever, I'm not down for that. And for some reason they decide to start dating. So this is following their story and seeing if they will last together as a couple and if they will get married. And if this cover like says anything, I think they will. But you know, who knows, I guess. We will see what happens. And the last book that I have to show off for you guys in this haul is Midnight Secretary Volume 1 by Tomu Omi. This is another one that's kind of blending in with my tapestry back there because the colors are pretty similar. This is a series that I'm pretty sure I have read like the complete series already, but I was reading it online and I decided I wanted to start collecting physical editions of the series. And from what I remember, we are following this woman who is an office worker, and she ends up becoming the new secretary for this business guy. I don't know if he's like the CEO. It says he's the director, sorry. And he is a really difficult guy to work for. And she like basically has a schedule where she's like working the opposite hours that you would expect her to work. And she finds out that he is a vampire. So she is the secretary of this vampire guy, and a lot of different things happen in the story, and I'm looking forward to revisiting it and, you know, reading the entire thing from the beginning. So that was all the books that I picked up in March. Like I said, it was quite a bit, but I feel like I'm gonna read most of these, like the mangas, for the next round of the Dewey 24-hour readathon. So hopefully that happens, so it's not too bad that I bought so many. Let me know which books you guys picked up in March. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you would like to see more from me, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you guys again in the next one. Bye.